What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and we just got the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 2, and it gave us answers to a lot of our questions going into this episode, and also gave us Baron Zemo as one that we were all looking forward to, to show up in the show, and it introduced more of the U.S. agent John Walker as the new Captain America, and as we've seen, we felt we saw more as a character. So, but in this video, I'm gonna be breaking down the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 2, but be fair, spoiler warning, if you're trying to avoid spoilers for the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 2, you should probably click away now, because there are gonna be spoilers in this breakdown, so you better click away now, and don't come back until you've seen episode 2, the Falcon and Winter Soldier. But if you're still here and you don't care, let's get into it. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 2 takes place with U.S. agent John Walker in a locker room, and it looks like to be taking place in a football game surrounded by all the men's football equipment. And then he says that everybody expects me to be something, and this because in the post-credit scene, when John Walker walked out as to be the next Captain America, he said those words like he needs to go out and impress the people. And then he also says, "I don't want to fail them." And then after that, John Walker looks at the suit in the bag, and then his friend tells him that you can't just punch your way out of problems anymore. And then John Walker says, "Time to go to work." And then the next scene takes us to a football game where John Walker, the U.S. agent in the Captain America suit, is signing autographs for the fans and taking selfies with him. And then John Walker, the next scene, he gets interviewed by Good Morning America. And the first thing that the interviewer asks him is, what is it like being Captain America? And then the interviewer tells John Walker and the rest of the world about John Walker's history, about how he's in the military and how he earned 3 medals of honor and ran RS-1 missions in counterterrorism and hostage rescue. And then there was 2 name mentions in this scene, and that is like Tony Stark and Bruce Banner. And then he mentions that he doesn't have the flashiest gadgets, or that he doesn't have super strength. And then he mentions that Captain America he has and always needs to have, and he's not gonna take, and he's gonna need every ounce of it. And then he says he needs to do all this because he's got big shoes to fill. And then he mentions Steve Rogers and how he followed his career very closely as an Avenger just to get inspiration from Steve Rogers. And then the viewer asked him, well, what is it like to be a hero? And then he says he liked what he was doing so that he would make the people feel safe. And then the next scene takes place in kind of what it looks like to be an aircraft base, and what Sam is looking at is a poster of the U.S. agent John Walker that says, "Cap is back, John Walker," and then Torres meets up with Sam. And then the next one that we know, Sam and Bucky reunite. And then he mentioned that Sam had no right to give up the shield, and that's not what Steve would have wanted. And that he's making a big deal on Sam not taking on the mantle of Captain America for not taking Cap's shield and not using it. And then Sam shows Bucky a picture of what looks like to be a leader of the Flagsmashers, which it says is connections with rebel organizations all over Eastern and Central Europe. Now he says he's too strong because of the similar super soldier serum that Steve Rogers took. And then Sam mentions the big 3, which he kind of made up, but he mentions the big 3, which are androids, aliens, and wizards. And then Sam mentions Doctor Strange, and he described Doctor Strange as a sorcerer is a wizard without a hat. And then he says that those guys are magical, that they use force, just like you, how Bucky has a vibranium arm, which he used to fight people, and he uses force too. And then in the next scene, it takes place on an aircraft carrier, where the pilot, Torres, said they have a couple seconds before they drop. And then Sam and Bucky also get into a staring contest. And then Bucky says, so what's the plan? And then Sam says, and then he doesn't answer the question, and then like Sam calls him, enjoy, you're right, Buck. And then Bucky said that he can't call him that, and he said that Steve knew him longer and that he had a plan. So there is a mention of Steve Rogers in this scene because Steve and Bucky were longtime friends, and that Steve and Bucky were helping each other. And then when Sam mentions that he has a plan, and Bucky says, oh, what is it? He just ignores Bucky's question and then flies out of the plane. And then Sam and Bucky end up in a warehouse where they're gonna find the weapons that the Flagsmashers are hiding it. And then the next thing we see is Sam and Bucky looking at the Flagsmashers coming into the warehouse and smuggling the weapons and see like what else they have in their truck. And then they go after the Flagsmashers as they drive away. And then Bucky looks all over the Flagsmashers truck, and they said they're stealing like medicines and vaccines. And then Bucky finds that the person of the group, and that he looks, and that she looks like to be a hostage, but it was actually the leader of the Flagsmashers, because Bucky was tricked. They think that the person was the hostage, and then the leader of the Flagsmashers kicked him out of the truck. And then Sam and Bucky happen to end up fighting the Flagsmashers. And then all of a sudden, the U.S. agent John Walker comes in with the shield of fighting the Flagsmashers with Sam and Bucky. Like, this is like when it's a Captain America scene. And then John Walker uses the flying shield to fight the Flagsmashers with. And then as Sam and Bucky were fighting the Flagsmashers, they realized that the Flagsmashers were super soldiers, in which they can jump really, really high, and they are super strong. There's like the similar super soldier serum that Steve Rogers had, and they could be part of the Weapons Plus program, which turned into the WebX program responsible for creating mutants. And then Sam mentions that the 8 soldiers that are running loose, so that means like that they got away, and Sam and Bucky need a way to find out like where they got their serum and how to find and where they get the serum. And then Sam and Bucky meet up with John Walker, the US agent, and his sidekick. And then Sam mentioned that their plan and their mission is to get things back to the way it was during the blip. And then they mentioned of how they tracked the Flagsmashers, and they tracked Sam's tech, which is Red Wing. And then John Walker, and the U.S. agent, mentioned that it is government property. So basically what he's saying is that he hacked Sam's tech, Red Wing, as government property. And then U.S. agent's psychic Lamar mentions that he has Battleship, and Bucky says like stop the car. And then U.S. agent also mentions that he had no idea how the shield ended up here, and that he wasn't trying not to be Steve. He wasn't trying to replace Steve. That he was trying to be the best Captain America out there that the world can love. And then the Flagsmashers go to a lab or layer, and the soldier as the man let them look them up a person. And then the leader of the Flagsmashers, Carly, receives a message from an unknown number, and he says, "And you took what was mine. I'm going to find you and kill you." And so that was something that like Thunderbolt Ross might do. And then we see Sam and Bucky on the aircraft, where Bucky mentions that they should take this shield from the US agent. And then Bucky says to Sam that there's someone that like he should meet, and he is talking about Isaiah. And then Sam and Bucky go to visit Isaiah Bradley, and his grandson Ellie Bradley, who is supposed to be like in the Marvel comics, is a Patriot, and in the future he will appear like, with the Young Avengers. And then Isaiah reveals that he was put in jail for 30 years shortly after being experimented on to replicate the super soldier serum, that he can like turn into the Black Captain America, but then he retired. And then they mentioned Bucky like told Sam that like he didn't knew that he didn't tell Sam that like Isaiah was the first Falcon before Sam. And then the cops tell Bucky that he has a warrant out for his arrest for missing his therapy session. And then the next scene shows that Sam and Bucky are both in therapy as they are trying to work out their problems. And then she asks who would like to start, and that Sam and Bucky refuse to answer. And then the therapist suggests that they do an exercise. And then the therapist asked Bucky, and he says like, oh, she asks when you would wake up, what is something that you would like to see that would make your life better, and he says he likes Sam like talking less. And then the therapist put Sam and Bucky into a stargazing exercise where they would have a staring contest, which turns out to be funny, and then it turns out one of them blinks. And then the therapist asks Bucky, what makes Sam aggravate you? And then the first question that Bucky asked, he says, well, why did you give up that shield? And then Sam apparently makes a big deal out of like he couldn't like keep the shield, and that he says it has nothing to do with Bucky. Then Bucky says, Steve believed in you. He trusted you, and then he gave you that shield for a reason. And then he says that shield stood everything he stood for, and he says that shield is Steve's legacy because throughout the MCU, Captain America used the shield to defeat bad guys, and used the flying shield too, and from the Marvel comics as well, and it represented a lot throughout the years. So this means that Sam and Bucky were having an argument on how Sam never kept the shield, and that he never wanted to live up to the mantle of Captain America, and Bucky was telling that like what he did was wrong, and that like Steve believed in him, and that he trusted him to keep the shield that he gave to him back in Endgame. But then Sam gave up that shield and put that shield into a display case in the Captain America exhibit. And then as Sam and Bucky are leaving, that like when Bucky leaves, his therapist noticed that the look on his face, and then Bucky says, what's rule number 2 again of his rule? And then the therapist says, don't hurt anyone. So Bucky was about to break his second rule, which was to not hurt anyone. And then Sam and Bucky meet up with U.S. Agent John Walker, Captain America, and his sidekick Lambo. And then he says that the first thing that he brings up is that the leader's name of the Flagsmashers is Carly Marganano. And then they mention that how she stole the medicine and took them like to the camp, and that like how. And then Bucky mentions that there are hundreds of those that are all planet sends the blimp. And then the next thing we see is the Flagsmashers taking their stuff and the stuff they stole and put it on the place that they can take off. And then someone on their crew, on the Flagsmashers team, says like they need to move out, like they found the Flagsmashers, the Power Brokers men. And then as the cops show up, they shoot all one of the Flagsmashers. And then the rest after that, the rest of the Flagsmashers took off. And then Bucky mentioned that Isaiah said my people, and then Bucky meant Hydra, and Hydra were his people. And then he mentioned that Walker didn't have any leads, and that Sam says that he knows where he's going with this. And then he mentioned that Isaiah knows all of Hydra's secrets. And then Sam mentions that like he knows where Bucky is going with this plan, and then he mentioned that they're gonna go see Zemo. And then the ending shows Baron Zemo still in his prison cell. So this means that Sam and Bucky are going to go visit Zemo, and Zemo is probably gonna tell them all the information that they need. And with Sam and Bucky going to see Zemo in his prison cell, it feels like Sam and Bucky are going to confront like Zemo, or like Zemo like give Sam and Bucky information and that they need. And I think in the next episode we're probably gonna see them go into Madripoor, which has a Wolverine connection. And I feel like we're gonna see more characters show up, or maybe like I don't know if they're gonna be like mutants in the next episode. I think like because like the Flagsmashers are the super soldier, super soldiers, and so yeah, I can't wait to see what happens in episode 3, and I'm so excited for episode 3. And yeah, so that is gonna be it for this breakdown of the video, guys. I'm doing a watch party for episode 3 next week, and I can't wait to see Zemo's performance in the next episode. So that is it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What is your rating on this episode? Kind of give it like a 9.5 out of 10. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to give this video a like, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter for live updates. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.